Hey nerds, a topic that has been going around is whether or not Guild Wars 2 actually teaches you how to play the game and if it does it well. Now, I could suppose you could argue either side depending on the way you learn, but I'm here to say that if you know how to read and if you actually learn by doing, testing things out and seeing if they work, you could possibly figure out mechanics that are shown in the beginning of the game. Now, another argument is whether or not the core game should be removed or if the leveling experience actually matters. Now, for me, it does because all of these small mechanics or features that everyone says aren't explained good enough, well, these are actually touched on in the core game. And if you remove that, how are you going to implement it into just the expansions? Plus, there are a lot of people who like leveling through different ways, not necessarily just through the story, but through crafting, gathering, PvP, and throwing themselves just out into the fray, or World v World, or whatever. And there are a lot of people who have a honeymoon phase and just enjoy that experience. So, yes, do I think endgame content is good? But do I think it should be removed? No. Now, specifically, one of the things that I was talking about that I thought Guild Wars 2 teaches you quite intuitively is defiance bars. And there have been people who have explicitly tried to debate me. I actually have footage here that shows a defiance bar. And the defiance bar has this cute little symbol, right? It's white, it kind of looks like a dragon, and then it has a green bar. Now, this one isn't locked. So if you hover over the symbol that's underneath it once you start combat with this creature, the symbol that matches the bar says unshakable, gains defiance when targeted by crowd control skills, blind is 10% as effective, weakness and vulnerability last 50% less time. So immediately, if you actually hover over these things to know what they do, to learn the game, if you like to read and are intuitive, so you would know to do this by instinct, you would know how to take care of this break bar. Now, this one is an instance where if you went in and you had things on your UI that are CC abilities and you use them, just going in, ham, just run in, and you're using your CC abilities and the bar only goes down when you're using your CC abilities, you could probably say, hey, this bar gets rid of by CC, and then you could try to find out what happens when you deplete it. But it's all trial and error. And like I said, I suppose not everyone learns that way. But if you don't want to learn that way, you could read what the actual symbol for the tooltip for the bar says. It tells you exactly what to do. It's actually in the personal story as well, which if they took that leveling out of the game and the personal story, you wouldn't get to experience. So the first thing that came to mind for me was the Mouth of Zhaitan when I fought that. I actually made a video on that, so I have clips in here. And I specifically state that I tried just going in to break the Defiance bar, which, if you look at the footage, has that exact same symbol. And also, if you target your enemies under every single enemy HP and or Defiance bar, it literally says what the enemy does. A lot of people use action cams, so they don't actually target anything, and they say, this game isn't a tab target game. Actually, there are abilities that you have to use with something targeted. I'm not sure if a lot of people know that because they don't read their ability tooltips. I can actually show you guys the Mouth of Zhaitan video. Flashback! See how it works. Orion Spectral Guardians. Guards? I think they're guards. Regardless, I didn't know that if I charged in the way I normally do everything with my combat, that they would just knock me around. I got to a point where I was trying to pull each spectral guard out behind each pillar to kill them there and then go in and down the boss. This combat felt so smooth, and there was so much more than just moving around. There were rocks on the ground that you could pick up to break the Defiance bar if you wanted. You could actually look at the tooltips for the boss, which made it more apparent that he was unstoppable, things like that. Same thing with the Spectral Guards. If I'd actually clicked on them instead of just the Mouth of Zhaitan before I started the fight, I would have known that they would have just knocked me around and done a shockwave ability. But if you actually hover over click on this target, hover over all of these conditions and everything like that, you can actually see what each boon it has on it does, what the Defiance bar does, and what the enemy actually does. And I specifically said that I went in to break the Defiance bar. I didn't know how to take care of the little weapons that were floating around the mouth of Zhaitan. And once I found out, I tried to pull them behind a pillar and kill them off one by one, not knowing that he would possibly respawn them. And also not knowing that I could just go in and try to AoE them just from outside of melee range as well, and make sure I broke everything really quickly or use rocks, which I did eventually find out later, because if there's rocks on the ground and you're able to use them during a boss fight, if they're, targetable, you can interact with it, pick it up, you probably should utilize it. So is everything really in your face for a game? No. But because those things are there, you could instinctively know that this would probably help you with the fight. Or you could do trial and error. And what's even funnier is a lot of people who say that the game doesn't teach people well enough get upset about games like Final Fantasy XIV. And they say, well, it's too slow. Or rather, that other MMOs are too slow. The tutorial is too slow. You get one ability and it teaches you how to use that ability. You fight one boss that also only has one ability. You go to a next dungeon, it learns one mechanic and you learn how to deal with that mechanic. So would you rather have apples or would you rather have oranges? I think props to ANET for making it so that you can actually learn this way and seeing things out in the world that you would end up using in, let's say, Heart of Thorns. Now, if you did want to argue one point, the Defiance bars were actually in Heart of Thorns first, and then they went back and implemented them in the rest of the world so that you could do them beforehand. But regardless, it's still something that now, or rather since 2016, 2015, the game does teach you how to do, and people still complain about it. In fact, there is actually an in-your-face box that comes up for dodging. They actually also implemented an area that shows you how to dodge, and people still don't know and say the game is too hard and has too many one-shot mechanics. How is the game too hard and has too many one-shot mechanics and doesn't teach you how to play when literally a huge box now comes up? Which is why I did a dodge tutorial. But anyway, those are just my 2 cents. Feel free to say what you'd like in the comments. Let me know what you think, but hopefully you guys had fun with a video like this. This was a little bit of a rant/guide where you can see footage of actually how this works. And if you like the content, this is what I do full time. I'm also an ArenaNet partner. So if you haven't tried out the game or need another account for some reason, I will have my links in the description. The first one, Xandri Guild Wars 2, is a link to make it so that you can try out the game for free. The full base game is free, including Living World. If you log in when they go live, I can explain Living World in another video. But it really, really helps and supports me. I also have a Patreon for $3 a month. If you would like, you can also support me. And it really helps out. I also have merchandise, a whole bunch of stuff in the links below, and I stream on Twitch too. Twitch, you can subscribe to me. I'm actually a partner. So anyway, just my thoughts. I will see you guys at the next one.